snow. Now that it's winter outside, lots of people wonder how to bring the beautiful, cold, wet, white mess that we call snow into their workrooms, into the hobby rooms, and onto their models. And manufacturers, and when I say manufacturers, I actually mean many manufacturers, have thought about this and have come up with multiple varying products to recreate the perfect snow effects on your model. And it doesn't matter if we are talking snow effects on a tank, if we are talking snow effects on a diorama base, or if we're talking snow effects on miniatures. What I want to achieve with this video is give you guys a more or less broad overview about the different kinds of snow products that are out there. We have powder products, we have powders that you have to mix with water and glue to create a gooey mess. We have already pre-mixed gooey messes, and we have weird looking other stuff, but we'll get to that in just a second. So I have an allotment of 5 different snow products sitting on my bench right now. Starting out with Deluxe Materials Scenic Snowflakes. Let me take this here. This is a powder that you sprinkle on over your model, no matter what kind of model it is. If it's a base for a miniature, if it's a tank, or if it's a diorama base. You have some instructions here how to use it and how to prevent this from actually turning your eyes into crusted messes, so don't put this stuff into your eyes. Then we have this. This is an interesting case. This is Rast de Ranayo, and I'll try to open this. It's not easy to open, but here we go. It's also a powdery mass, and you have to mix this with water and glue to turn this into a paste that you can then spread all over your model. I think this is produced in Italy or Spain. It's Italy. It's made in Italy, because I don't understand most of what's written on here, except for the English translations. Vinylic mixture for snow simulation. I'll demonstrate how this works a little bit later in this video. So you mix this with water and glue, and then you spread it over the area that you want covered in snow. This of course helps to create a much thicker layer of snow than the Scenic Snowflakes. And then we have this. This is Snow Microballoons Acrylic from AK Interactive, and this is very similar to the Scenic Snowflakes, but a little finer in grain. And let me try to get this up close and zoom in here so you guys can actually see. Yeah, there you see, it's a very, very fine powder. And this, of course, allows you a much better integration of this in 35th scale dioramas and models. Then we have Terrain's Snow Effect Paint Acrylics from AK Interactive, from their diorama series, AK8011. This is a pre-mixed paste, very similar to what you get with the Rast de Ranayo. And don't get too confused by the brown in there. I actually had a contaminated brush when I used this. And yes, brown snow is ugh, just like the yellow snow. Don't eat the yellow snow. This also can be spread on top of your dia base. And then we have snow sprinkles. This is the most interesting of these products because I've never used this, so this is going to be the first time for me as well. And you can use this to like have some snowy remains on your surface I wouldn't use this on vehicles, I think, but we'll see where we get. So, what are we going to do? I've prepared 5 Warhammer bases. Always a nice way to have like Scenic paste on it without preparing a proper model. And I spread AK Interactive's Muddy Ground on them so that we have the identical surface for all 5 of these snow products. It's a base, no primer, and we just added the AK texture. And we are going to be using each and every one of these over the top. And I'll show you how to apply them. And then you can see the differences these products actually give you and what these individual products allow you to do. And of course, this is by no means a all-encompassing video. There are, of course, different products out there on the market. And there might be even better products out there on the market. Precision Ice and Snow, for example, is a very, very good snow set, I've heard. I've never used it because it's very hard to get in Germany. And there are other ways to recreate your snow. I've heard that people use baking soda to make it. And I can perfectly see how and why they would do that. It's a cheap way of doing it, and I think it is very similar to what the white powder can do. And yes, I know, white powder, haha, baking soda, haha, some drug reference, but no, it's not. We are going to put some snow on these bases, and then you can compare for yourself, and you can see for yourself what each individual base looks like once the snow is on there. We're going to start with the Scenic snowflakes in just a second. And then each and every one of you can make their own or create their own picture in their mind as to how this looks. So I'll be right back after I set up the bench, and I'll show you what this Scenic snowflakes stuff looks like on the bench. So let's start with the Scenic snowflakes. I would recommend you putting a paper towel underneath whatever you're working on, because when you work with this, it will turn your bench into a snowy mess, because this is sprinkled on from a couple of centimeters high, and it just goes all around whatever you're working on. So especially if you're working on something very small, this will go all over your bench, and all of the product that goes next to your model or what have you is going to be lost, and you will not be able to use this for further projects. So I recommend you putting something underneath. I'm not going to do this right now because otherwise the camera will start whiting out and you will see a lot less of what I'm doing. So let me zoom in here so you guys can actually see what we're doing. Let me move the camera, straighten it out a bit. There we go. Let's move in even further so you guys can see even more. There we go. Oh, okay. And here we go. So what I recommend you do, and I did this off camera, take a bit of white glue. Take an old brush, dip the brush in water, and then take the white glue onto your brush, like so, and stipple it wherever you want the snow to sit. Because I can already tell you, otherwise you will not get any adhesion of the snow. It will just fall off again. What you could also do is use some spray-on glue to fix your snow into place at a later time after you put it on. But I'm not a big fan of spray-on glues, because just like what we're going to do next, the spray-on glue will also go everywhere and not just where you want it to go. So you can now see everywhere that this is white, there's some white glue. And the good thing is this also already has this applicator cap with holes on the one side, and on the other side, of course, it's just a big gap. You can see the stuff. It's just a white powder. So without further ado, let's try this, okay? So like I said, you just go over there, over the top, and then just carefully, not like me, just like there, carefully sprinkle this over the top, and I think this is already enough. So you can see this goes everywhere, especially around your base. Let this sit for a second. Let the glue start to cure, and the capillary action of the water that you mix with the glue kind of soak into the snow powder. And you can see how coarse this is. These are very, very coarse flakes. These are rather big flakes, especially when you consider that you use them in 35th scale, maybe even smaller, 72nd scale. You won't be able to use this as, yeah, snowflakes in a sense. It says snowflakes, but I think they're too big for flakes. You can pile it up, and it makes for a sort of nice looking snow surface. But you'll see in just a second once we stipple this off. So just set your paper towel. Let me quickly clean this off. Moisten the paper towel. And just wipe it away. And just as quickly as we made a mess, we have cleaned this up. So, but we can use the same paper towel. And now take the base and flip it over. Just like this. And you can see in the areas where we had the glue, more of this stuck to the base. We have a bit darker areas, right? Like, for example, right here you can see it's a lot starker. And we have it like dusting over the rest. So what you could do, if you did not want the dusting, you could take a stiffer bristle brush and you can wipe it away, like so. And make sure that it is only in the areas where you really want the snow to be. Or you could blow air on it. And then this is what you'd get. I think this only lends itself if you want, well, let's call it light snow effects. This is not a product that you should use to cover larger areas, and especially not a product that you should use to create thicker snow layers. It's still useful if this is what you're going for, and there are situations where this might be perfectly fine. Just a light dusting of snow over a dry surface of ground. This might be perfectly fine and exactly what you're looking for. So let's move this out of the way and let's take the next base. And this time around, we'll use Snow Sprinkles from AK Interactive. This is a paste. It looks a bit dry. Let's see if this is dry. Like I said, I've never used this myself before. So this is a first time for me as well. Once again, use an old brush when you're doing this. Oh, it's not dry. Oh, let's see. Oh, work there. You can see this is a thick paste. And I think you just add this to your brush. And then you'll just brush it on. Like so. I'm trying to concentrate on the raised areas of this base. I think you can use this to have like some piled up snow. I want to have thicker areas as well as thinner areas to just show you exactly what this looks like once it's dry. Like I said, I've never used this before, so this is the first time for me using this, and I'll be just as interested in seeing the results as you, I guess. So let's make a heavier area right here. I can already hear people saying, "You're using this wrong." But we'll see about this. Alright, so with this, you need to let this sit a lot longer than the sprinkles effect, because this needs to dry. It's an acrylic, so it shouldn't take too long, but we'll let it dry and then we'll see how this looks. In the meantime, let me move this out of the way, take the third base, and introduce the next product. This time it's AK's Terrain Snow Paint. Again, an acrylic paint, already pre-mixed. Again, use your brush. I would normally use a bigger brush, but I currently don't have an old brush that is properly sized, so I'm using this, and especially the base is not that big. So you can just like, and this is what it looks like when you have it on the brush. And this stuff is heavy. This is very thick. You can create very nice and heavy snow effects with this. Have a very... Sometimes you should moisten your brush a little bit, just a tiny bit, to soften the edges. Like this. Blend it a bit. Oops. Even when I have the camera over the top, I'll still manage to get it out of the shot. All right, there you go. And just like the last product we used, I'll have to let this sit for just a second. All right, let's introduce the next product. We'll compare all of these to each other once we're done with all of them, and once every little last bit is dry. All right, third base. This time around, snow micro balloons. This is very similar to the Scenic snowflakes that we used first. So let's see. Once again, use some white glue, thin it with water. Make a dilution. Diluted. And sprinkle it in, or spread it over the areas that you want the snow to be in. Okay, this is again a lighter bit of snow that you create with this. Alright, like this. So normally, what I do with these, I don't just splash them on like I did with the Scenic snowflakes. I'll use something, for example this hobby knife. Take the blade and just put some on there, and then just like outdoors when it snows, just gently spread the powder onto your model. Just let it snow. This is a lot less messy than the Scenic snowflakes, and I think they are a lot finer, so I think the results you get are a lot finer. So what you can do now is take this base, take the container, and just remove the excess. And there we have it. Like with the first product, you now have a slight misting in areas where you did not apply glue. If you want to remove this, once again, you can use your brush. As you can see, you can take it off, or you can blow air on it. I do like the misting though. This allows you to create different measures of this effect. You have a lighter measure, this is just a dusting, then you have a thicker layer where you apply the glue where the snowflakes actually pile up. Alright, so last but not least, rast della nao. Like I said, this product is the hardest to use because you have to do some work before you can actually use it. You have to mix this stuff. And this is why I'm not using this as much as I did before. Because I'm lazy, and the fact that you have pre-mixed products that you can just as well use to do your snow bidding makes this, in my opinion, superfluous to my use. But I still thought I'll show you guys. But right now I have some problem opening the can. This is the big thing here. We have a metal can that has a lid that actually really tightens this and sits on there tight. And trying to lift the jar, the can lid. There we go, with the tweezers. All right, we got it. All right, we got it. So as you can see here, we have white glue and some water on top of this jar here, this glass jar. I'll be adding some of the rasteranao to this, and then you'll see how this product works. Okay, here we go. Some water and white glue. Take some of the rasteranao. Again, I'm using the tip of my hobby knife for this. Take your brush back out, and now mix this. Properly mix this. This will take a second. And the surface tension of the water kind of means or leads to the stuff kind of falling off in some areas here. But what you want to get is a paste-like consistency, like this. Then you take your base and you spread it on, like so, in the areas where you want it. This is also a product that you can use very, very nicely for built-up snow, thicker snow, when you have areas where you want built-up, piled-up snow. It's perfect for that. Right. Well, perfect. I wouldn't say perfect, but that's what's it's good for. And of course, you can thin this down to basically recreate the misting that we created on the others, like so. All right. And similarly to the AK products, this now also, of course, has to dry. So once again, let me get out the three other or four other bases, get them in shot so we can take a look at all 5 of them next to each other before we let them dry. This is the AK one, the AK to rain snow. This is the snow sprinkles. This right here is the rasteranao. This right here is the Scenic snowflakes. And this is the snow microballoons. So we'll let them dry. And once they are dry, we'll take a final look at them. And then I'll tell you a little bit about how you might be able to combine them to make a very, very realistic looking snow on all of your models. So I'll be back as soon as this is dry. Alright guys, now here we are. All of the 5 snow products have now dried. We can now take a look at the different results. Here we have the snow sprinkles. Here we have the rasteranao. This is the AK snow. This is the Scenic snowflakes. And this is the AK micro balloons, snow micro balloons. And as you can see here with the sprinkles, it looks more like ice, if you ask me. It looks interesting, but to me this looks like ice. Or melted snow with a couple of leftover bits of like proper wet snow. I think this is an interesting touch, and I think this is an interesting way for this to look, but I don't think that I would use this to recreate larger areas of snow. I think you can add this to the edges of larger areas of snow to make it look like these are the areas where the snow has started to melt. So this is the sprinkles. Interesting. Let's go with the Scenic snowflakes next. As I said earlier, you still have the dust that you could take off, right? Like around the areas where we put the glue. The other areas, for example, this one here, this one, or over here, is where we put down the glue, where you can actually see the color is a lot starker. The contrast is a lot harder. And I really like this. If you want to have like a very, very light dusting of snow, like it just started to snow, there's no big buildups. For that, it's a really good product. The only thing that I don't like about this is the fact that you have to basically snow it onto it and like sprinkle it on, and it's a mess. And especially if the dio piece or the model that you have is bigger and you want to use this in a more confined area, it's getting problematic with the Scenic snowflakes. The Rasteranao, and we only used a limited amount of this. I gotta say, only used a limited amount of this. I think created a very interesting three-dimensional snow effect. And you can also see with the diluted mix that I added to the edges, this added also this nice melting snow effect on the outside. It's very matte, there's no gloss, so that's also a very nice added effect, an added bonus. And I think this is a very good three-dimensional effect. The only thing I don't like about the Rasteranao is the can that it comes in, and the fact that you have to open that can, and of course the fact that you have to mix it yourself, which takes time. And it's always hard to mix exactly the right amount. Either you mix too little or you mix too much. Then you have to either throw it away, you have to make more, and that just takes up time. And if you don't have time because you don't want the rest to dry because you want to blend it together, that can be a problem. Which brings us to the AK snow effects. And as you can see here, let me hold this like this so you can see the three-dimensional effects there on the top. I think this is very, 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 very nice. And I think this is the exact same effects that we can achieve with the Rasteranao, but you get it already pre-mixed. And I'm a sucker for pre-mixed stuff, and I'm a sucker for things that go quick and easy. So I would always prefer this. But I think the effects that you can achieve are basically the same. You can get really nice three-dimensional snow effects. I went a bit heavier on the AK because I have more, but the effects are basically the same. And you can also blend it, as you can see here, along the edges where I thinned it down a bit. You can actually blend it as well. And then last but not least, let's take a look at this. This is the AK micro balloons. This is a similar result than we achieved with the Scenic snowflakes. I went a bit heavier as well. But overall, I think it's the same effect. It's just easier and a bit, I think it's a little finer. I think the flakes themselves are a little finer than with the Scenic snowflakes, which I think is the desired look when you talk about scale. So for me, all of these are perfectly fine products, and all of these I can recommend for you to recreate snowy landscapes, as well as snowy tracks. Although I would recommend you use this for snowy tracks, the powdery stuff, because I don't think chunks would get caught in tracks. If you want to have chunks, either of these works just as well. For road wheels, for example, I would go with this, with these two. Again, I would put down a layer of mud, and then over the top I would sprinkle this. I think this is a very nice look. I don't think you can go wrong with either product. The Rasteranao is rather expensive. I think, and then I'll have the prices of each product in this video so you guys can see exactly how much you pay for how much of the stuff. I think just because you have to mix this and you have to be quite clear how much you need in order to not remix the stuff, and it's hard to do this, I would always prefer the AK stuff because it's easier when it comes to measuring how much you need, because you can just take it out of the pot. You don't have to mix it and mix it and mix it. I think the sprinkles are only good if you want to create melting snow effects, or if you want to kind of have them on the edge of a larger snowy scape, because I think they are more ice than they are snow. When it comes to the flakes, I think both do what they're supposed to do. They both dust the surface. They're not good for build-up layers of snow and bigger layers of snow, but if you want to create a dusting, both are good. I think it's easier to again measure the amount that you take out of the can with the micro balloons, and they are a bit finer, so I would always tend to use them more than the Scenic snowflakes. But I don't think that the Scenic snowflakes are bad just because of that. It's just personal preference. If you want a can that you can just open and have this lid that helps you sprinkle them on, perfectly fine. So these are the 5 options that I have available to myself, and I like all 5 of them. Like I said, this is not a proper snow product to me. This is more an icy product to me. Overall, I think all of them are perfectly fine. It depends what you want to do. If you want to do heavy snow, these 2 perfectly fine. It doesn't matter what you get. I think the Rasteranario is harder to get, especially outside of Europe. The AK stuff is, I think, easier to get, and of course easier to handle with mixing and stuff. So go for the AK if you want. Same here. I think Scenic Deluxe Materials is a company from the States, so I think if you're in America, that shouldn't be a big problem to get. No, actually, they're from England, so okay. I think depends how easy you can get them, and if you really care about the coarseness of the powder, because I think they are a bit grainier than the micro balloons. So you get to pick and choose what you want. Overall, I think all 5 are fine. You could, of course, combine them. And I really like the fact that if you have, for example, the AK snow effects, and you add a couple of micro balloons, like a bit of the micro balloons over the top, I think the results are really nice. I've done that before on a couple of my builds. I think the effects are really nice because you get the dusting over the top of heavier areas, especially if you have like a street or something on a diorama base and you want to kind of make it look like people actually cleaned areas, and therefore there is built up areas of snow, and then snow set in again, and then it started to snow again, and so another layer built up over the street. I think this is a very interesting effect. So this is my take on snow. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful to you guys, and I hope I can help you guys with this video. And if you have any questions, please write a comment down in the comment section below. I'll try to answer it to my fullest capacity. If you guys have any input, any additional information, any critique, any criticism, anything you want me to know, please leave a comment. If you liked the video, if you think it was helpful, please leave a like. If you like my channel, please subscribe if you haven't yet. I hope I'll see you guys in the next video. This has been Hot Modeling. Thank you guys for watching. May the force be with you, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye, guys.